Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Photographic Memory Podcast. I'm excited to welcome to the program Dr. Shannon Panzo. Dr. Shannon, how are you? What's going on?
Oh, everything's happening here again, and we're just having a good old time. And I'm talking to you today.
Exactly. And again, why is important? Today's topic is why is important to have to remember things, to have a great memory. And tell me why, Dr. Shannon.
Well, basically, in short, it's so that you're not taken advantage of. That's the biggest question there. You don't want to go through life because you can't remember something. You don't want to be taken advantage of. And more, this is actually happening to people because they are not doing things to strengthen their memory. They are not doing things to take care of their memory, and uh, and so therefore they end up regretting it. It's their own fault.
Yes, just like my own fault that Dr. Shannon is a photographic memory expert, a brain management expert, and also he does mentoring. Just had to do that as a joke today because of our topic about why it's important to have a great memory. Because if you don't have a great memory, you'll fall flat on your face and make lots of mistakes.
Right now, as a teacher, Neil, whenever you were out there teaching, how did you encourage students to have a better memory? What things did you get them involved in doing?
Just basically cramming all the information in your brain to remember it so that you can answer the questions for a test. So we would go ahead and, have them read the chapter, especially if I was teaching social studies in eighth grade, read the chapters, get a study guide, study the study guide, the certain questions, memorize those questions, the study guide, come back, and then they're given the test. That's it. And say, hey, you may have to do it, and then work with other students. You might have to rehearse it 3, 4, 5 times through so you know it perfectly. You memorize it, then you're ready to go to the test.
Okay. Well, then that's method number one, the rote memory system of learning. Okay, that's the first method. Now, the as you can tell, going through all those capitulations in order to memorize something takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and the higher up you go in whatever it is you're studying, oh, sure, you can get by with that whenever you're going to grade school, but as soon as you get into college and you have a lot more pressure put upon you, and the environment has changed, well, then uh, that time that you used to be able to put into learning all these things, suddenly that time gets squished and scrunched in between everything else. So now your time is actually being compromised, and the only thing left that you have to give up to actually gain access to that time then is sleep. And while we all like some sleep, uh, so I'm sure that there's avenue as to why some people would rather do some other things than study. Now, the one of the typical things that is talked about out there um, with memorization is the cup and hook method. Now, this is an associative method, and people go along and they learn how to do the cup and hook method. There's all different styles of doing the cup and hook method, but essentially you associate one thing with another, and that's
Right.
how you learn to remember things.
Right.
Okay, there is a learning curve involved in learning how to do this. So you do have to take a certain amount of time in order to do it, and you also have to take a certain amount of time to concentrate yourself to doing this at any time that you need to memorize something. And you have to keep up with it though. This is the downside of the cup and hook method. If you stop using it for any length of time, you get to start over from scratch because it falls apart, it falls off. And well, maybe along the way, you've remembered a few things that you've gone over again and again and again, which you usually do, but that's actually falling back to the rote memory system of learning. and you actually didn't learn them, then through the cup and hook method. Cup and hook method is a simple associative method, and yes, it does fall off.
Okay.
Now, there's another method, and it's called mnemonics. Okay, mnemonics is there's different types of associative properties. Let's say I'll give you an example of a few of them. One is music. If you remember the lyrics, or you associate a word with a certain music, then then what happens is you can then pull up things using music. Another thing is with anagrams. Okay, the Roy G. Vib.
Right.
Okay, gives you the what you need there. So uh, it's a made up word, but it's an anagram or a series of letters that whatever it is starts with. And oh yeah, I've seen a few of those as well. And yes, they do actually work, but again, you have to understand what each one of those symbols mean.
Exactly.
And yes, it does work. But again, it does take some time and fixation as to getting it right. And it does tend to carry on because it has it has a lyrical property to it. It has a rhyme to it. And that's another way that people learn is through rhymes. And uh, so if a person is trying to learn something, they may use a rhyme to learn that particular topic or that particular word. And that's fine as well. Now, all of these systems, they take time. And mnemonics,
Exactly.
because there's a lot of different systems, can be rather confusing. And to really get good at it is going to still take you a lot of time. And that time is not necessarily going to pay off really how you think it should. So the good thing is there are ways to memorize things. Now, are you ready for the big picture idea?
Yes. What's the big picture idea?
Well, the big picture idea is photographic memory. Whenever you're born with the eidetic memory. It gives you everything that you need to start your life with. It is you, and you are an information sponge. You learn everything at an incredible rate. You take it all in on all sensory levels all at the same time. It's a completely associative process automatically. And this is what you're born with. This is what we do as our humanity. And essentially, because the eidetic memory is a difficult thing for people to remember how to say, we now call it the photographic memory. But the photographic memory still does use all the different senses. So you still gain access to all these different things. Now, what makes the photographic memory much better for you is the fact that everything that you get is stored in your long-term memory, and you get a much greater amount of information at the same time.
Exactly.
So So when it comes to you processing information, wouldn't you like to process information at 100 times to 1,000 times uh, what you would normally get with any of these other methods? How does that sound to you, Neil?
That sounds awesome.
Okay.
Compared to all the
Now,
other work that really doesn't have you remember it afterwards. All those memory techniques you talk about.
right. You have to go about doing them every day. And there's this one technique that I saw. It's out of Germany, and it's like an adaptation of mnemonics where you start to completely it's a computer generated thing. So you learn a sentence and you retype that sentence exactly, and then you can move on. And then you learn a couple sentences, and then you learn and you again type that back in, and whenever you've gotten it perfect, they let you move on. And pretty soon you're doing a paragraph. Okay, you got to memorize everything in a paragraph, and then you move on. And eventually you build up to 2 paragraphs, and you memorize all that, and you type that all back in, so that you can prove it. You can prove that you now know all that information verbatim. And you keep doing this and doing this and
Exactly.
doing this for, uh, and you keep building yourself up over a period of around 60 days. Now, this is the most monotonous routine that you can think of in order to build your memory, but it will do that. It'll
Right.
build your memory. But most people, in fact, it's only a very small amount of people ever get to the 60-day point. Most people drop off within the first 3 or 4 days
Right.
because it is so difficult and so boring.
Exactly.
You have to have things that are entertaining, and that's where mental photography comes in. Mental photography, if you had to rate this alongside of something else, this is, to your mind, this is a very exciting thing, because this is like doing the fire walk every day, but it's a new topic entirely. And you're doing something new every day because you're picking up new topics and you're mentally photographing those new topics to your photographic memory. Every day you're getting new material.
Exactly.
So you're exciting your mind. Now, consciously, you may not you may not sense that. There are at certain times you will sense that, whether it be emotionally, you'll feel certain things. You'll feel certain things happening in your head. Some people get the third eye sensation going. Some
Right.
people have this feeling that their head is big, 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 and the library in their head is small, small, small. So there's all this huge volume of space now that wants to be filled up full of knowledge. And so this is the type of feelings that people get whenever they mentally photograph. Now, this is what the photographic memory is all about. The photographic memory literally has infinite availability for you to install information in your mind. Why? Because this is natural memory. All these other
Exactly.
techniques that we discussed before,
They're
you
not
have to
they're not natural. They're not natural.
they're not
No.
natural. You have to learn them. The mental photography, the
I was gonna
mental
say
photography uses the photographic memory, which is completely natural. So you're building new dendrites, which is your memory storage compartments of your brain, and you're also triggering what is called neuroplasticity, which builds much stronger connections between your conscious and subconscious, and allows you to not only put the information in, but to bring it back out just the same way.
so
So it
basically what
works.
you're saying is, Dr. Shannon, that the only way to really truly remember things in a natural way is go to zuxpro.com right now to learn mental photography and brain management from you.
Well, I'm not saying it's the only way, but if you want to be effective and efficient at it, then ZoxPro is definitely the way to go. Now, sure, it does take a little bit of work, and it does take more than the work. I would say the consistency is more important than the work itself, but you actually do have to do the work. And just like Ted Valley said the other day, it it's easy to learn, it's easy to do. It's just the doing that that you have to do. You have to be consistent and you have to do it. When you do it, you get results. And
Right.
those results last you the rest of your life. That's the great thing about it.
Okay. All right. Again, check out Dr. Shannon Panzo again at suxpro.com. All the social media handles, just search for Dr. Shannon Panzo and you're going to find that social media, and appreciate it, Dr. Shannon. And we'll talk next time for the Photographic Memory Podcast. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
All right. That was the Photographic Memory Podcast. Take care.